Well, ultimately, the Maryland Supreme Court ruled that the rights of the victim's family were violated because they weren't given reasonable notice of the hearing where Syed was freed. So now this case will head back down to a lower court and there will be a new hearing. But in the meantime, it doesn't appear that Syed will head back to prison. For Haymon Lee's family, who has been fighting for justice for years.
The Maryland Supreme Court did the right thing.
A new Maryland Supreme Court ruling in the murder conviction of Adnan Syed is a sigh of relief.
This has been a long road, right? Suddenly, 2 years ago, with 1 day's notice, that all changed. And now, nearly 2 years later, it's changed again, and they're gratified.
Syed served more than 20 years in prison for the killing of Haymon Lee in 1999. His case then becoming the subject of national attention with the podcast Serial. Then in 2022, Syed was freed. Citing new evidence, the Baltimore City State's attorney at the time, Marilyn Mosby, dropped all charges, and his conviction was vacated. But the victim's family was given less than a business day's notice ahead of the hearing where that happened. On short notice and living across the country, the victim's brother, young Lee, appeared remotely. Along with his attorney, David Sanford, they've been fighting it, saying they had a right to be there in person. And now the Maryland Supreme Court agrees.
There should be transparency in the courts.
Saying, quote, in an effort to remedy what they perceive to be an injustice to Mr. Syed, the prosecutor and circuit court worked an injustice against Mr. Lee by failing to treat him with dignity, respect, and sensitivity, violating his rights as a crime victim's representative to have reasonable notice of the hearing.
The ruling is saying that the vacatur motion, the push by Marilyn Mosby to drop all charges and free, de facto exonerate Adnan Syed, was invalid. They violated the rights of the victim's family by trying to rush it through.
So what does this mean for the case? Sean Kennedy, a visiting fellow at the Maryland Public Policy Institute, says
they have to hold a new hearing. That doesn't mean that he's going back to prison, but it does mean that there will be a full and fair hearing on the vacatur with the victim's representative.
A footnote in the court opinion says they are not ordering a change to Syed's conditions of release. In a statement, Syed's attorney says they disagree with the decision and says reinstating the wrongful conviction does not provide the victim's family with justice or closure. But dissenting opinions say the case, quote, exists as a procedural zombie and has been reanimated despite its expiration, and says the majority opinion, quote, rewrites the victim's rights statutes to provide a right where the legislature has declined to provide one.
What can alter the outcome in a case like this is one's ability and right to comment, to question, to opine on the evidence. That was never done. That was never offered our client. So more important than being there in person versus being remote is the idea of being able to see evidence and comment on evidence. And that, for the first time, is what we're going to be able to do.
Now, with a new hearing on the horizon, the future of this case could come down to Ivan Bates, Baltimore City's current state's attorney, and if he plans to file motions to vacate the convictions like Mosby did or not. We asked him at an unrelated press conference Friday.
I'm not going to comment or talk about that now. It's unfair to the family here, but also it's 185-page opinion as I understand it, and we need to have the opportunity to sit down, look at it, digest it, realize do we have any issues and what my potential issues would be.
The family wants justice, and if justice means that Adnan Syed remains free because there's compelling evidence to prove his innocence, they would be the first ones to say congratulations to Adnan Syed and there was a terrible injustice committed. But so far, we haven't seen that evidence.
And with this ruling, Syed's attorney says he's once again fighting for his freedom, but they're working to clear his name once and for all. Live in Baltimore County, Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also take some time to subscribe to our YouTube channel.